Fala, gurizada, bora tomar aquele cafezinho. David na área. Para quem não sabe, sou o David, sou investidor de criptomoedas. Se tu é novo no canal, seja muito bem-vindo, se inscreva, deixa o like, isso me ajuda muito aqui no YouTube. O YouTube entende que vocês estão curtindo o conteúdo e começa a divulgar para mais pessoas que têm interesse no assunto. Então, cara, se inscreve, vamos logo bater aí esses 1000 inscritos ligeirinho, dá aquele apoio. Cara, a gente está sempre falando aí de criptomoedas, o projeto do momento é o Ripple XRP. Então nós vamos vir com algumas notícias aí, eu acho que vocês vão gostar muito dessa notícia que eu vou vir. É uma live de vários personagens aí que estão falando de XRP, personagens famosos nos Estados Unidos. Recadinho básico, na descrição do vídeo ali vai ter o nosso grupo do Discord e o nosso grupo do Telegram. O Pablo é responsável no grupo de Discord, se quiser fazer parte lá e assistir algumas aulas, ter algum conteúdo lá, o Pablo às vezes entra no Discord e dá aquele apoio para a gurizada, e eu fico lá no Telegram lá junto com ele. E se tu quiser fazer parte da família do café, é só tu instalar o Telegram no teu celular, eu não cobro nada, e clicar no link ali, vai estar sempre por dentro de notícias falando de criptomoedas. Quando tu entrar, tu vai ver uma mensagem fixada falando as regras para ter um bom convívio lá dentro. Eu não procuro pessoa para ficar lá debatendo e falando que é melhor uma que a outra. A ideia do grupo lá é conversar e adquirir conhecimento sobre criptomoedas. Então, se tu é novo no canal, seja bem-vindo. Entra no grupo do Telegram, que vai ser muito bem tratado. Cara, eu vou deixar meio que tentar fazer um vídeo rápido, porque o vídeo vai ser meio longo, já é 11 horas, é o horário que eu tô chegando em casa, 10 horas, 11 horas. Tô trabalhando na correria aí. E eu achei um vídeo bacana aí que anunciou para mim no YouTube, que eu já sou membro desse canal já faz um tempinho, que é o XRP Bank. Cara, mas antes de nós ir para as notícias que eu quero falar, vai ter uma notícia que no grupo aqui que largaram. Presta atenção nessa notícia aqui, vou dar uma lida rapidinho. FID lança relatório sobre dólar digital, porém não toma decisão, por Henrique Kalashnikov. Legal esse nome dele, né? Kalashnikov. Diferente. 20/1/2022 saiu às 18h17. Segundo a matéria aqui que saiu no Live Coins, o Banco Central do REWA, o Federal Reserve, o FID, cara, o FID tá meio que rumores de lançar uma proposta para compra de XRP. Vamos ver o que saiu aí, o que eles estão falando. Publicou um estudo de 40 páginas exaltando pontos positivos e negativos na implementação da sua CBDC, o dólar digital, cara. A gente está na expectativa que a XRP pode se tornar um dólar digital, ou que a Ripple vai ajudar os Estados Unidos a criar a sua CBDC, que nem eles estão fazendo com os outros países, e o Brasil está na lista. O Brasil, para quem não sabe, vai criar o real digital, e quem está criando o real digital é a Ripple, tá ajudando o governo brasileiro a criar. Então vamos ler aqui. Ressaltando os pontos negativos e positivos, sua CBDC é o dólar digital. Apesar disso, não tomou nenhuma decisão a respeito do assunto. As CBDCs, siglas para moedas digitais de bancos centrais, ainda dividem opiniões devido a alguns pontos de privacidade de dados. Já outros países, como China, não se importam tanto com isso, e nem mesmo seus cidadãos. Afinal, a carteira de yuan digital é o aplicativo com mais downloads no país. Tu tá vendo como é contraditório? A China quer banir as criptomoedas, mas a China tem a sua cripto. Cara, quando eles dizem que não querem uma coisa, é aí que eles querem. Vamos continuar aqui na notícia. Já em comparação com o Bitcoin como sistema de pagamento, o texto cita o severo limite de transações por segundo, bem como o gasto energético necessário para manter a rede segura. Cara, a gente sabe que quem consegue fazer esse serviço muito melhor é a Ripple XRP. Vamos ver aqui. Benefício do dólar segundo ao FID, dólar digital. Dentre os pontos citados como pontos positivos, o FID começa o capítulo mostrando a estabilidade e mostrando a necessidade de atualizar-se. Como exemplo, cita criptomoedas e stablecoins, dois produtos que estão com uma demanda crescente. Segundo o benefício, seria a melhoria de pagamentos transfronteiriços. Quem é que está fazendo isso aí, cara? Este também tem outras características do Bitcoin, que oferecem mais serviços baratos do que a Western Union, desde o seu nascimento. Já outras melhorias de uma CBDC, segundo o FID, incluem a inclusão financeira, mais uma característica das criptomoedas, bem com acesso público para a reserva do Banco Central. Por fim, o documento ressalta a força que o dólar americano pode ganhar caso se torne digital, ou seja, facilitando a sua compra de sua moeda por estrangeiros, dessa forma aumentando seu valor. Cara, eles estão olhando. Risco do dólar digital, segundo o feed. Já em relação aos riscos, o relatório aponta a segurança e estabilidade do sistema financeiro, citando que uma possível insuficiência de liquidez relacionada gerada por saques em massa em bancos comerciais para converter esses dólares em CBDCs. Cara, será que isso aí tem a ver com o problema também da liquidez da Ripple, da XRP? Não sei, fica no ar a dúvida. A eficácia da implementação da política monetária é o outro ponto negativo, afirma o FID, citando que uma possível volatilidade do seu dólar digital, visto que devido aos pontos citados acima, sua demanda pode expandir e cair rapidamente. Além disso, o relatório também cita a preocupação do governo em relação à privacidade dos seus usuários, questão já levantada pelo congressista americano Tom Emmer. Por fim, o relatório cita problemas relacionados à segurança cibernética, necessitando que o seu sistema possua uma infraestrutura extremamente resistente, bem como cita o uso de sua moeda por criminosos, afirmando que seria necessário que as instituições seguissem regras rígidas. Cara, eles têm medo porque eles não controlam, essa que é a verdade. Cara, vamos ver aqui. Sem posição definida, após análise de benefícios e riscos, o governo agora do EUA precisa escolher qual caminho tomar. Por um lado, pode perder o mercado para a China, cuja moeda já está sendo usada como reserva internacional por outro país desde 2016, cara. Os Estados Unidos está chupando bala, os chineses vão tomar conta. Então, cara, a moeda que vai dominar, está com forte tendência de dominar o sistema financeiro, a Ripple, XRP, logo é ela que eles estão encrencando. Por que será, né? De outro lado da moeda, o governo do EUA precisará sacrificar algo para conseguir implementar o dólar digital. Entretanto, apesar de seu interesse, parece que eles não estão com tanta pressa quanto a China. Já o Bitcoin permanece estável na casa dos $42 mil, mesmo após notícias positivas como a possível entrada do Google e da Intel no mercado. Bem mostra-se desinteressado nos dizeres do Banco Central da Rússia, que deseja banir tanto a mineração quanto o uso de criptomoedas. Cara, notícia top, hein? Cara, vamos para as notícias agora, é o que interessa. Só te liga esse vídeo que saiu para mim aqui lá na gringa. Olha quem são os personagens do nosso vídeo aqui, cara. O computador tá um pouco devagar devido ao gravador de tela, né, cara? Deixa ele desenvolver, raciocinar.
John's in.
I'm in.
Cara,
It says
pausa.
live.
There we go.
Eu odeio esse gravador. Tá, beleza. Cara, se liga na live que rolou na gringa hoje. Eu acredito que foi hoje, saiu no XRP Bank. Cara, essas coisas que tu tem que estar atento. Olha os personagens. Charles Gasparino, John Deaton e Eleanor Terret. Esses dois aqui são repórteres da Fox e esse aqui não é nada mais nada menos que o advogado de nós, os investidores de varejo. O cara deu uma entrevista, cara. Isso aqui saiu na internet, mas com certeza depois o Charles e a Eleanor vão falar na Fox com os americanos. Então, gurizada, se prepara. Eu vou ativar as legendas. Eu vou ter que acelerar o vídeo, porque é uma stream meio longa. Se tu quiser ver o vídeo devagar, depois tu diminui a velocidade ali nas configurações, porque a stream, cara, aqui não tem papa na língua na internet. Vamos ver o que eles vão conversar. Eu não vi o vídeo ainda, vou ver com vocês na íntegra. Me apareceu esse vídeo de tarde e disse, vou ter que gravar de novo, cara. Então eu vou vir olhar com vocês na íntegra aqui, vamos ver o que eles conversaram. Deixa eu ajeitar aqui, português. Vou botar a velocidade aqui. Cara, vou botar em 25, depois se quiser ver mais devagar, bota em 0,75, tu vai conseguir ler as legendas bem de boa. Vamos ver o que saiu aí na gringa dessa live aí, dessa stream. Bora pro vídeo, vem comigo, gurizada. Play!
I'm here. Live. All right, guys. Sorry about that. It's been a couple months since we've done our Twitter lives, right, Charlie? Gotta get back into it.
Get a little rusty here.
Get a little rusty.
Let me just set my camera right.
Crypto Friday, back on track.
Crypto Friday, yes. All right.
Now, John, is Ellie more appropriately named Crypto Gal or Crypto Girl or Crypto Lady?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, you got Supergirl, so maybe go with Crypto Girl, unless that's, what do you think?
And I like the trademark. I like the trademark glasses. That's very, very crypto-y.
I like
It is.
Crypto Girl. My friend told me Crypto Lady sounds like I'm like old. So,
all right. Don't want that.
Yes, the glass. I have to agree with Charlie. The glasses are very blockchain-ish. Blockchain technology.
all three of us have got glasses on, so look at us.
Yeah, but I'm doing it because I'm old.
Same.
All right, let's get started. Guys, welcome back to our Twitter Live with Ellie and Charlie, and we have our very special guest, John Deaton, joining us today. And as you all know, the latest in the SEC versus Ripple case has, it was a ruling by the judge that came out last week, and we want to dive a little bit deeper into that, and I know John's the expert here. So, John, I know everybody kind of knows what happened, but just give us a quick overview of what came out, what the judge said, and how this is.
Vai sair, é isso, diz ela que a juíza já se posicionou. Vamos ver o que o John Deaton vai falar desse posicionamento da juíza. Cara, tu tem que estar por dentro disso aqui também. Tu viu que deu uma acalmada, ninguém mais fica falando do processo. Cara, eu tô vindo com só o cara fera falando, gurizada. Então deixa aquele like, hein? Eu tô lá no corre, mas eu fico ligado aqui também quando eu vejo alguma coisa interessante, trago para vocês. Então me ajuda que eu te ajudo. Resenha à parte, vamos ver o que o João Deaton vai falar. Bora pro vídeo play.
Is going to affect the case going forward.
Sure. A while back, as far as March and April, Ripple was trying to get all internal SEC documents for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. Judge Netburn ruled twice previously that they are relevant, that it goes to the Howey analysis and whether XRP is a security and whether or not Ripple had fair notice. But the SEC claimed that it was all privileged under this deliberative process privilege. And the judge finally came down with a ruling, and she basically said that two things Ripple gets. One is the Bill Hinman draft speech that went to 63 people or 63 emails. That email and the draft speech Ripple gets. And Ripple also gets any notes by SEC staff lawyers that, quote, third parties not associated with Ripple. Real quick, Ripple, the judge said that any notes that dealt with the CFTC, those are privileged. Any notes that dealt with Ripple meetings, since Ripple was there, they don't get them because they know what happened. But notes related to meetings of third parties not related to Ripple are relevant and can be produced to Ripple, although the SEC might be able to invoke attorney-client privilege. Why is that important? A lot of people are not paying attention to that ruling because who are those third parties? Those third parties are Joe Lubin, Consensus, Andreessen Horowitz. And so the Ripple will be able to get, if the SEC lawyer said, Joe Lubin said ABC, they get that. If the lawyer said Joe Lubin said ABC, and I think this means, then the SEC can still redact the mental impressions of the SEC staff. And so that's basically the ruling in a nutshell.
So would you say this is open? Sorry.
Let me just make the point. I mean, part of Ripple's case is not just that XRP is not a security. Part of it's the case is literally an explosive charge that the SEC tilted the scales in favor of its competitors, and those same SEC people who did that, Jay Clayton, Bill Hinman, etc., knew they were going into private practice at some point, and then started going into private practice with those same competitors, namely Ethereum and maybe something with the Bitcoin blockchain. I don't know. And by the way, they deny all this. We should point out.
Cara, já tá escancarado, mano. Eles mesmos já estão falando. Esses caras vão se incomodar. Para eles não se incomodar, eles vão ter que abafar muita gente, cara. A imprensa já tá falando isso aí, a imprensa americana, cara. Lá a imprensa americana lá pega no pé, não é que nem aqui no Brasil, cara. Que deixa passar batido, eles até manipulam, mas quando eles vê que tá acontecendo muita coisa errada, eles escancaram, velho. Então já tá escancarado, pode ter certeza que esses caras vão tudo se incomodar. Bill Hinman, Jay Clayton, vão se incomodar, na minha opinião. Bora pro vídeo.
Confluence does not mean it's real. Just because two things happen at the same time does not necessarily mean that it doesn't mean there's a conspiracy here. But it is a pretty explosive charge, and we should point out I was talking to a fairly significant lawyer yesterday, and I was asking him about this, and he tells me that the firms that are involved in this are pretty big. I mean, Devil Voice Clinton on for.
Cara, ó, o que ele vai falar, ele conversou com o advogado de todas as empresas envolvidas. Eu acho que o advogado fez uma avaliação. Vamos ver o que o Charles vai falar.
For Ripple, Cleary Gottlieb is another one. They got Mary Jo White, they got Grunfest. I mean, Ripple really lawyered up on this, and it's going to be kind of an interesting battle.
Do you think this is a win for Ripple, John? Do you think it's kind of an even playing ground now? Because I know there were some things that you had hoped Ripple would get and they didn't.
Yeah.
The SEC. So what would you say is the outcome?
I would say that the answer really depends on what's in there, right? So if, for example, if in those notes XRP is mentioned, then that could be something significant. Was it mentioned? Was there a comparison by these Ether investors? Did they throw XRP under the bus while trying to get the free pass for Ether? That could be significant. At the email chain with the speech, is there any comment by someone that identifies, did that speech get to someone else? We have video of Joe Lubin where it is 2 or 3 weeks before the Hinman speech, and he says things that appear in the Hinman speech. You know, is there any evidence that a non-SEC person tied to Ether got their hands on that speech?
Well, let me ask you this. That's interesting. But didn't Ellie? What did you report about Hinman's speech? That some outside player had believe that they helped shape it. I mean, what was? Now Hinman denies that, obviously. But what did you report that his speech was influenced heavily by one of the major law firms or something?
Yeah, so we know that the draft of the email, and that's what we are going to be seeing, or Ripple lawyers will hopefully be seeing, that just got not privileged status, so we can see that. I reported that that email went to at least 63 people at the SEC, the draft. So that was a couple days before it came out. So one of those people is Jay Clayton. So, and we reported that in the story. We said Jay Clayton did have some.
Yes. But no, I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, Charlie.
Yeah, somebody told Ellie that an outside lawyer took some credit for the speech.
It's on Crypto Law's video library. The attorney's name is Lowell Ness.
Yeah, that's it.
And he worked for Perkins Coie, or he does work for Perkins Coie, and he gave a chat that was videotaped, and he said, quote, the Hinman speech tracked my memo pretty significantly. In other words, that's that memo that was written trying to give a safe harbor or how they would analyze digital assets. And
let's just play. I'm going to play little devil's advocate to be fair. Because Bill Hinman, he's a nice guy. Let's be fair. When regulators formulate sort of opinions, they actually go out to the business and talk to people. I mean that makes 100%. That makes sense. 100%. It's not illegal. It's actually quite smart thing to do. The fact is that this is a nascent industry that I don't remember Bill Hinman doing any. I looked at the deals he did over the years. These were basically tech deals and things like that. He wasn't, his business background was not heavily involved in crypto, at least initially. So it makes sense that he's a little bit like searching for answers here, and I don't think it's fair to immediately cast him as corrupt, which a lot of people do. Based on that.
Gurizada, o Charles está tentando dar aquela abafada no Jay Clayton. Cara, Charles, eu sei que tu sabe da verdade, Charles. Tu tá querendo jogar um pouco de areia, uma pá de areia no fogo para dar uma acalmada. Mas, mano, a gente sabe que ele tá envolvido, ele tinha preferência pelo uma Ethereum, ele tá envolvido com a Ethereum saindo depois da SEC, cara, milhões. Eu não vem dizer que tu sabe que no fundo o cara tem esquema assim, cara. Ah, Charles, não faz tu cair no meu conceito, Charles Gasparino. Não vai cagar no final. Bora pro vídeo.
Again, this is a complicated situation, and but there is something known as regulatory capture, where you got people that are in business and in government, and it goes back and forth, and that is not quite a illegality, but it does influence. And if you have the two major players being a big influence, the notion that you might go work for them someday is not a crazy thing, and that regulatory capture could show up in regulation in what you do.
Well,
it's not an absurd thing to say that.
No, I understand you, but here's the quandary: is that the SEC, in my opinion, they've kind of thrown Hinman under the bus because they got him to sign the affidavit that said the speech was just his personal opinion, and they've denounced it as SEC declaration. So, Charlie, here's the problem. If you didn't intend the speech to be guidance to the market from the SEC, then why are you gratuitously giving a speech that gives Ether a free pass while your law firm is a member of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, and then you go work for those same investors?
You know what the problem? Okay, I agree.
Ah, Charles! Charlie, agora? O que tu vai dizer? Ah, mano, que lapada deu o John.
But here's one thing I'll tell you. Gary Gensler gave some speech that you wouldn't care about yesterday or 2 days ago about his regulatory agenda.
Vai de burro. John Deaton vai de burro.
Briefly, 300,000 feet talked about crypto. So, like I said, didn't mention this case at all. He started out the speech saying, I just want everybody to know, this is my opinion. This does not represent the opinion of the SEC. Okay, that was a couple days ago. That is pretty standard. It's stupid, and here's why it's stupid. Because if you got a top guy at the SEC, and Bill Hinman was a top guy, and clearly Gary Gensler is the top guy, and they're giving their opinion, it does have an impact on policy.
Also, if that's their opinion, like they're giving their opinion.
Why they keep saying that? This is my opinion, purely my opinion, not the SEC's. Even though I pull all the strings of this. I mean, well, how fucking dumb is that? I'm sorry. I mean, excuse my French, And they do it all the time, and as they do it, they also tell 1,000 people at the commission, or whatever, dozens of people at the commission, to weigh in on it and tell me what you think. Am I stepping over the line? I mean, this is how crazy it is. I mean, it's just. I think it'll be interesting to see how the judge digests that whole "this is my opinion" thing. Because it's not just him, it's all these guys. They've been doing it for years, and it's malarkey. Because it is their opinion, I'm sure. But if you're the second most powerful person in crypto at the SEC, it has an impact.
Well, listen. I think there's a huge difference if Charlie Gasparino says, "Hey, this is my personal opinion."
Yeah, but I'm not a regulator. I'm just a
right. Not the opinion of Fox Business. But if you're the chairman of the SEC, you may give that disclaimer, but in essence, that the market is looking to it as guidance.
Right. Listen, it's like the head of. One thing about Fox.
Cara, é o que o John falou. Uma coisa é tu, Charlie. Tu é repórter, tu dá uma opinião. Agora o cara representa a SEC, faz tudo isso aí, processa a Ripple, dá um passe livre pro Ethereum, sendo que ele tem negócio com a Ethereum. Cara, é que nem o Brad Galehouse fala. Não escolha os vencedores e nem os perdedores. Deixa o mercado fazer isso aí. Não te influencia. Tu é presidente de um órgão que regula a parada que tu tá competindo, e o cara dá ampla vantagem para uma empresa, e para outra tenta fazer de tudo para a empresa não desenvolver. O Charles, sei lá qual é o raciocínio dele, o que ele tá pensando. Ele sempre se mostrou ser um cara neutro. Agora ele tá dando aquela puxada de saco pro Jay Clayton, Bill Riemann, e o John Deaton tá dando com os dois pés nele, cara. Vamos ver.
Business at Fox. This is really decentralized. There are a lot of opinions here. If the woman Scott who runs Fox News, and my boss Lauren Pedersen came out and said, "This is my opinion, not of Fox Business and Fox News," they would be right. Because it's just the way this place works. We all have different opinions. I have a different opinion than Caluto. Caluto has a different opinion than Sean Hannity or Tucker Carlson. Ellie has a different opinion than me. No one's telling us to have the same opinions. It's different in a regulatory agency, okay? Not that you can't have different opinions, but generally, regulatory agencies speak with one voice, particularly in the public. That's why Bill Hinman asked Jay Clayton to review his speech. There's an approach. Regulatory bodies are not decentralized. They are the utmost of centralization. And I think that it'll be interesting to see how the judge views that sort of jargon that the SEC keeps throwing out there on all their policies, not just this.
John, I have a quick question from a viewer, actually. They want to know, do you know what day those documents have to be turned over by the SEC?
I would say that probably within 30 days is the general guidance. She didn't set a time. She just said that they need to supply it to Ripple. Post haste is sort of the kind of way you look at it with the redactions. And then
John, do you get the documents?
No, I don't get the documents right now. I'd have to ask permission from the court. At some point before I write a brief, they're going to have to gain me access to certain things that they don't, or at least I requested from the court in order to write the appropriate brief. But let me just comment on something that Ellie said when she was on the chain, Charlie, where she brought up the one thing that stood out the most in your guys' 2-month investigation was the Grunfest letter. Because when Grunfest says it, I think it carries more weight than when John Deaton says it. Right, John Deaton represents.
Done a lot more work on this than Grunfest.
but what I'm saying is, when Grunfest says, never in the history of the SEC has there been a mass exodus of the very personnel behind pushing the lawsuit. That and he said that gives raises obvious concerns. You had Hinman gone, Clayton gone, Director of Enforcement gone, Director of Trading and Markets gone. You know, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, I know. I know that is a damning statement to make, and and I can't imagine Grunfest, knowing like his position, he used to work at the SEC, he's a very respected legal academic. I can't imagine that Grunfest did that lightly. I will say this though, again, in the interest of being fair. You have a business that, Bitcoin is off now. Crypto's getting crushed now. We should point out little different circumstances. But at the beginning of 2020, 2021, it was rocking. Okay, every major Wall Street firm, every major law firm was getting in big time. They were, as one person called it, balls deep. Okay, now you would expect, if you're like a top guy, a top regulatory official going into the private sector, which they all did, and they all do, that you would be playing ball and making money from the top players of that booming business. And the top players of that business, after that lawsuit, was clearly Ethereum and the other one, the blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain. But clearly Ethereum, because they were doing so much business. They were doing, listen, I'm not an expert at this, but just help me out. Joe Lubin and that whole Brooklyn project on top of consensus. It was like they were doing a lot of stuff that required legal work and opinions and banking, and so you would expect a regulator going into private business. Remember, all these guys were bankers, essentially legal. They worked the law side of the deals. You would expect them to do something with crypto. So remember, it's not like they one day figured out, oh, let's do crypto. Just you would expect them in that business. It was as big as tech M&A was back in the 1990s.
Right. Go ahead, Ellie.
I was just going to say, I know we talked about this earlier, but I want to touch on the whole XRP relation to Ripple. And, a lot of our followers have been saying, like XRP and Ripple are not the same thing. You have some insight on that, John, and I think you should share that with our viewers.
Well, I know that on Twitter, you'll see Charlie will give a report, and then people are like, well, Ripple didn't create XRP. And I know a lot of XRP holders, they bank on the fact that Ripple was formed after the XRP ledger was created after XRP. But it really, for reporting sakes, to be fair to you guys, it doesn't make a legal distinction. It doesn't matter that whether Ripple created XRP or didn't create XRP or which one came first. I think there's some people in XRP community that think that because XRP was created first and Ripple after, that gives you a legal defense. It doesn't. If the Deaton law firm shut down and then the losses of John Deaton were incorporated thereafter, I'm still culpable for anything I did.
Well, the problem that they have with that argument, I think, and it's probably the weakest part of the argument, is that they clearly created XRP to do something, and that something became Ripple, right?
Well, the real issue legally is that the founders, you had Jed McCaleb, right, Chris Larson, David Schwartz, who's the CTO today, Arthur Brittle, they created the XRP ledger and the 100 billion XRP, and then they gifted 80 billion XRP to what was New Coin or Open Coin, then it became eventually Ripple. And so it's a distinction, but it drives XRP holders crazy. But it really, for your guys to say, it doesn't change whether or not it's a security, not a security, who created the token first. Ripple could use Bitcoin as a security if they want. Yeah. You know what I mean? So,
but there's no doubt that they used it to build out the platform, right?
Well, here's the thing: the XRP ledger was a functional ledger blockchain technology first. So I think a lot of people make the distinction of they didn't build the ledger because the ledger's built first. But clearly, Ripple sells XRP to help their business, right?
So, and here's the tragedy of it.
Cara, isso aqui então que eu vi comentário lá num vídeo que o cara disse que Ripple era uma coisa e XRP era outra. Tá, cara, tu quis levantar essa questão que o John Deaton levantou, que antes era uma coisa e agora é outra. Mas, cara, quem vende a XRP agora é a Ripple, cara. Antes de virar o Ripple, tinha o GR de McLeod, daí de repente era outro nome. Agora é Ripple, cara. Ripple é que tem, vamos dizer assim, os direitos da XRP. Cara, o pessoal gosta do mimimi, né, cara? Isso aqui, que de relevante tem isso? Pra mim, nada, cara. Que XRP é uma coisa e Ripple é outra. Cara, quem comanda agora a XRP é a Ripple. Pelo menos é o que eu entendi, né, cara? Mas o povo gosta de levantar dúvidas, né? Bora pro vídeo.
This whole thing, we're really, in many ways, and I could be wrong about this, and you could correct me, it sounds like we're arguing how many angels dance on the head of a pin. This thing was allowed to be out there for many years. They were doing what they were doing. They actually built, am I missing something? Ripple's a pretty good business, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I've not heard that it's a shitty business. It's a good business. It actually works, right? Cross-border payments.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, so it works. By the way, how much real transactional business is done on the blockchain compared to Ripple? Ripple seems to have like a utility. I still haven't bought a slice of pizza on a blockchain, right? On the Bitcoin blockchain right now. But Ripple does seem to have a utility, doesn't it?
Oh, there's no doubt that.
Cara, eles já estão reconhecendo, mano. É o que eu digo. Quando um serviço é necessário, a valorização vai ser automática, cara. Eles estão vendo que o troço funciona. Quem usa tecnologia não quer abrir mão dela. Cara, que nem o Pix é a Ripple. Cara, abre mão do Pix. É o que eu falo. Tira o Pix do brasileiro pra ver se não dá gritaria quem usa o Pix. Cara, até aqui o Charlie tá falando isso aqui e ele disse que não tem muito conhecimento assim em criptomoeda. Ele sabe passo a passo, mas nunca investiu, nunca usou. Agora ele tá vendo que a Ripple tem utilidade, a XRP tem utilidade. Não é uma coisa falha. Cara, o serviço não tem como dizer que é ruim. Então é só detalhes, mano. Eles querem usar a parada, mas eles estão aquilo quem vai mandar em quem. Essa que é a verdade. Bora pro vídeo.
I mean, XRP was created by Bitcoin developers like David Schwartz had worked on Bitcoin. He's the CTO of Ripple. They wanted to create a better version of Bitcoin that was faster, more scalable. For example, Bitcoin on the Bitcoin network, you could do about 7 transactions per second. On the XRP ledger, 1,300.
Cara, olha a diferença, mano. Tem gente que ficou milionário do Bitcoin e não quer dar o braço torcer que a XRP é melhor. Tem BRs aqui que só falam em Bitcoin. Bitcoin, nada galando. Diz que XRP é uma merda. Nada contra o cara, é a opinião dele. Mas olha a diferença de serviço entre a Ripple e o Bitcoin. Vamos dizer assim, o Bitcoin é a tradição, mano. É o papão. É o time que tem a camisa. Foi ali o primeiro. Mas, cara, XRP, mano, é muita diferença. 1.300 negociações por segundo. E o Bitcoin faz 7, parece, ele falou aqui. Não tem como comparar, cara. Tem. E tem gente que não gosta. E, cara, incrível que pareça, maioria que critica a parada é BR. É os BR, os sabichão. Aí também tem os sabichão de grupo. Vão lá no grupo lá só pra fazer tumulto. Cara, se tu parar pra ver a parada, cada um ali pra fazer o que quiser. Se tu não gosta da parada, não fica incomodando quem gosta. Isso que é a pegada. Bora pro vídeo.
That's amazing.
During peak times, if I buy Bitcoin, I could wait 10 minutes to an hour for it to deposit. The most I've ever waited for XRP is 6 seconds.
We quoted you on that in our story, I remember.
Yeah.
But see, that's the whole thing. Like, one of the problems why crypto is selling off right now is because the underlying blockchain technology on the blockchain, or maybe Ethereum and consensus, is like, people don't see it like moving fast enough. Listen, in 1996, even in 1999, 2000, when the internet bubble burst, I was still using the internet for everything. It was clearly a mainstream usage of it. You know what I'm saying? I was buying stuff on Amazon, but mainly books back then. I was doing stuff on the web. I was searching stuff. I mean, it had a clear, and you could actually trade stocks on the web back then. It was a clear utility. I don't see the clear utility on a lot of the blockchain stuff. And when I look at Ripple, I do see somewhat of a clear utility.
Cara, olha o que eles estão falando. Cara, não é criticar o pessoal, tá, mano? Eu sei que tem muita gente que gosta de meme coin, dessas paradas. Mas, mano, eu me foco, me prende atenção uma parada dessa, ó, utilidade. Tu tá vendo como uma pessoa importante dos Estados Unidos tá falando, que ele vê outras coisas em criptomoeda que ele não vê necessidade. Mas ele vê a Ripple, ele vê. É o que eu vejo também, cara, na minha opinião, tá? Não tô desmerecendo quem investe em meme coin em outros projetos. Cara, mas eu me sinto mais seguro em investir numa parada assim, que eu vejo que vai ter utilidade. Então, gurizada, quem fica dizendo que XRP é isso, que XRP é aquilo, cara, na minha opinião, eu acho que vai dar um tiro no pé. É uma parada necessária, mano. Então, Cada um é livre para fazer o que quiser. Agora é que eu não desço do ônibus, cara. Eu tô aqui embaixo, aqui com a cabecinha escorada na janela, tirando um sono. De vez em quando eu acordo, dou uma olhada, o arzinho ligado. Só esperando o motor fechar a porta e ir. Ai. Bora pro vídeo.
Utility in terms of that business. It apparently works. So I just that's where I worry about this regulatory overreach. And I'll tell you, it sounds like Hester Pierce has got it right. Just let's start over. Let's just take a deep breath. There's no evil people here. There's people aren't like, this isn't Bernie Madoff. This isn't like the people at Ripple didn't create a Ponzi scheme. They created a product. It was it was a lot of regulatory sort of unclear stuff regulatorily. And, is it security? Like, who gives a shit at this point? Let's start in the beginning. Let's go back and give everybody clear rules.
Yeah.
And because if this business is supposed to be as good as it is, you're fucking it up, with this stuff.
Charlie, let me tell you how on point you are. You and Ellie in your opus, you said Deaton's no fanboy of Ripple. And,
Yes.
I've never been up there promoting Ripple. But you bring up an important point when you bring up Madoff and things like that. The SEC did a 30-month investigation of Ripple and its executives. There's not one count of fraud or misrepresentation in the complaint. And to me, that's what the SEC should be really focusing on. Get the scammer. There's like 10,000 tokens out there. Some of them are pump and dump schemes. Focus on that. But
I agree.
To do it the way they're doing it right now is just...
I think when the underlying technology is sort of good and you're doing it like this, you got to have more of a compelling reason. Listen, every SEC does this. It's not just Jay Clayton's SEC. And Jay had a lot of, by the way, it wasn't just Jay making the call on this. It was his staff making the call as well. And he defers to the staff often. But he's the guy at the top. Every SEC looks for like cases that generate publicity. Trust me, Elizabeth Holmes, if her name was Elizabeth Smith, and she did not make such a big splash with Theranos, but did the same shit, went to a bunch of really rich people and, got them to give her money, and her technology sucked, it didn't work out. She would not be in jail, okay? Because most people would look at it and say, it's, she made some boneheaded, she believed her own bullshit. She didn't rip off mom and pop. She ripped off some of the most sophisticated investors in the world. Let her slide, maybe throw the book at her a little bit, but instead she ripped off really rich people. It became a big story. It was about Theranos. She marketed, so I get all that. But, the SEC went after it in many ways because it was a huge scalp. Publicity-wise.
Yep.
No average person in Theranos got ripped off. They did not charge her with poisoning people or causing people to die that did her blood tests that were inaccurate. Remember, if that was the case, it would be another level story. They accused her of selling bullshit and successfully to some of the most sophisticated investors in the world. Remember that. And and by the way, people who take flyers at stuff, that have money to take flyers, they're like, here's $10 million. Who cares? I don't, I'm worth $1 billion. So here's 10 million. They make good bets and bad bets. This has a little bit of that smell. It was big enough. We have to put our stake in the ground. We have to make a statement about these securities that are being issued, and we're going to go after these guys. You get that feeling here.
I had a question for you or Ellie, which is in your reporting, we know that Jay Clayton met with Gary Gensler just the day before the lawsuit was dropped and then a couple months before. But was it reported to you that the case wasn't brought up?
Say that again?
Do you know one way or not whether the Ripple case was brought up between Jay Clayton and Gary Gensler when they met that day before the lawsuit was dropped?
Based on our sources, I have to be careful because some of this was on background and all this. We could not conclude whether that's the case.
We just thought the timing was interesting.
We thought the timing, and we also, it was like...
Cara, o John Deaton tá dando no meio deles, cara. Que eles sabem, mano. Tem esquema, eles sabem. Olha a cara do Charles. Se fazendo de boca. E o John Deaton tá fazendo pergunta violenta. E também ele tá dando resposta violenta. Essa aqui não tá falando nada. Ela tá quieta, só ouvindo os dois pegar. Agora o Charles, ele quis defender e o John Deaton não quis saber e deu no meio dele. Agora ele fez uma pergunta violenta que o Charles está se esquivando para responder. Cara, John Deaton representa nós, gurizada. É a massa. Bora pro vídeo.
Memories faded. Maybe conveniently, but memories faded. And if you look at what they were talking about in the, I mean, obviously the meeting notes, there's like a line that says meeting with Jay Clayton. I mean, it was at least nominally because of the Biden transition, right? And Jay was and Gary was a potential to get that job. I really don't. I think they would have to talk about it, wouldn't you? A little bit.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm just surmising.
I mean, you're walking out the door and you're dropping the most significant non-fraud securities case in decades. You think it might be a topic?
Yeah, I mean,
Gurizada, vai terminar o vídeo, eles vão se despedir, eu acredito. Cara, nem sei quanto tempo de vídeo deu aqui, eu tava aqui com vocês. Mano, 40 minutos. Vai olhando por partes aí, cara. Se tu é novo no canal, se inscreva, deixa esse like, valeu, gurizada. Já é quase meia-noite eu aqui gravando com vocês. Vou agora descansar um pouco, amanhã é outro dia. Valeu, tamo junto, até a próxima.